I think you've drawn attention to yourselves for the wrong reason by saying, give us more money. You would like to go and be given 40% of our national budget, up from 15. You've got no structures in place. You haven't got an auditing machinery in place, but you want money. Money for what?
First, I know the governors have asked for that. And I think that's why we have the Senate. The Senate should interrogate and ask the same question back to the governors, that indeed you want the funds to go and do roads and do, but when you look at your capacity, and the law is very clear also, the Constitution is clear, it says very clear, a county would apply. Right, but a county would apply.
The veiled attack to you, Senator, the veiled attack is that here you are, the Constitution says you will be the watchdogs of county government.
Yes.
And in a word, you've just said it's not our fault, it's the governor's fault.
Of course.
Why? But you are the person who's meant to be you're the person meant to be telling them what to do.
And yesterday is when the governors are deciding that. Even forgetting that we went ahead as Jubilee government, we had agreed in the Constitution at least 15%. We've gone ahead and given 38 points. Meaning we are just nearly to the 40% they really want. So I don't know whether now they want 80%, because already what we've given them is nearly the 40% they're talking about. But what we are saying, we have institutions, and I know we have guidelines, we have different laws that guide the whole process. And the Transitional Authority also is there, and it's still in force. The Minister of Devolution is there. Even if the president...
the public perception,
yes.
The idea was that even the Transitional Authority was meant to roll out this money slowly over a period of time.
Yes.
I think the request that came through is give it to us and give it to us now. That seems to me like a manifestation of greed.
Of course it is,
right.
and I like the way the president says, you want the roles, take, but he reminds them, remember, there is a law we'll have to use. And therefore, you go back and you know the Senate is there that is doing oversight. We know very well the Cabinet Secretary of Devolution is there doing oversight. And I think we met her last week, in fact this week, and we've agreed. We are only going to devolve what they are able to do. In fact, they cannot even stand and say, we are able to run the payroll. We'll be lying to Kenyans.
And that's why NASA's is that you forced us to do this,
yes,
we're not handing in a budget.
But then in the end, Mwalimu, the buck stops where? Back to the executive. And therefore, we have to protect all this, because in the end, if devolution doesn't work, it will be a political game then. Who did not do it? The president. Yet, the governors are the ones coming every day. But the good thing I've loved with the Senate, both CORD and Jubilee, one thing we've stood firm is to say they have no capacity. And therefore, we gave our report and we told them they cannot get what they want as we think, but let us follow the law as it is. Let us look at the 6th schedule and work within that. It will help us. And these are teething problems, I agree. But at the same time, we need to ask ourselves and the governors. And I'm very worried about them, because in the end, it is the citizens that will come running to them and saying, okay, senators, we want you to impeach this governor because he's not done what, and so they have to know that.
Right.
And I think as we move on now,
you do have the powers to impeach the president.
Of course we have the president, including the governors.
Right.
But also the county assemblies are there. What we are trying to say is that we've moved on 100 days. The most important thing first is to look at the governance structure. Are we on the right track? Because you can have the funds, you can have everything, but if the governance structure is not right, then we will lose it all. And the governance structure starts from the county assembly, because that's where and that's why you can see we have crazy budgets. But the good thing, and what I want to tell Kenyans, is that we have a very good budget controller.
I can explain something else. The county assembly, am I right as a lay person in understanding that the county assembly is working again in some kind of antagonism with commissioners and PCs were being retained from the last regime?
Definitely, again, it's a political war.
Right.
But that's why I'm saying, if we don't put in the governance structure...
and saying you're not doing that well, you're doing well in defense, but on the ground you're not doing that well, because the feuds persist. there's daggers drawn, people want to...
No, I think we are doing well. It's only that
yes.
most of these things, we don't bring them out. But we are doing well. Why? We've already met the speakers, all the speakers. And we've agreed also now the committees within the Senate, the standing committees that we have, the 9 of them, will go around the country, meeting each committee from the county assembly, trying to help first on legislation, 2, understanding the budgets, and 3, also how do you, because one of the things, don't forget, within a political process, if you don't put in systems and policies and regulations, that's why we overlap and you find each other fighting. And when you look at the standing orders that were there was no room for engagement, because which standing law do you use or to say I'm able to do this in a county assembly? But now we've changed also that, Mwalimu, and it's going to be a very open thing. I think by the time we get to September, October, you'll see now the senators and the county assemblies meeting in different agendas and now working and making the county assemblies to understand they are also there to help the governor. They are not there to antagonize the governor, but to also, when the governor feels these are things he wants to do them, they have a right also to protect Mwananchi, to say this is wrong. So right. It's very important.
Okay, we're drawing to a close.
Yes.
100 days was our 100 days. Maybe you would now come to a sort of conclusion of your own and say, how do you view these first arbitrary 100 days of self-reflection?
I would say, Mwalimu, that I think it's a tradition we put 100 days, but I've realized in 100 days there's very little, especially when you're coming into a new system. And that's what Jubilee faced. You come in, it's not like we've just finished elections, you're using the same structures. You have to put in structures, you have to align your ministries based on the regulations and the law that you're using. I think that took a while, and then we have to come in. The last parliament, you imagined how they used to go for campaigns and they forget there's a house, and therefore you come in, there are few laws that are not working, and that's why we have even challenges with the security, the Kivulundis, and because of law that was passed. So we have to reorganize and relook at all these legislations to help the system move. But I'll also say I'm proud that we still stick with what we promised Kenyans. Number 1, the women, the maternity, and we've moved on with all the challenges. We've moved on, and we are saying yes, the laptop will move on, but we know we have other challenges, and these challenges must move on board. I know the issues of teachers has been, I would say, one of those that both sides, the teachers, NAT and TSC, would have, but also NAT was a bit so hard not to understand 100 days. This government has walked in. We have Serem here who has to come in and also harmonize your salaries. But you bring in an issue of 1997, which I thought, if I was not at that time, I would have negotiated, agree on something, but agree to move on with Serem to ensure whatever we agreed on moves on in a right way. And that's where Sosian lost it completely, and that's where we've come here. But I will still agree with Kaimeni. If I was him, I would do the same. First, you close the schools, let the children know the responsibilities now are back to the parents, but ensure you come up with a full strategy that never again will you see a strike of teachers. That will be the best, and I hope that that's what he's going to do, that never again will see teachers striking because of their salaries and all that. And teachers also should now come out and say, even us, we will not want to see ourselves in such a situation, because I know most of them are now worried, will we be sacked or what? But I'll tell Kaimeni the best also is to come in with a new contract. You're a new government. You know the way you do in the US some of these things? You're a new government. Bring a contract that is friendly. If I'm willing to join in, I join. If I'm willing, if I'm not willing, I retire. And
time won't allow.
Thank you very much.
Beatrice Elachi, Senate Majority Whip, thank you very much for
coming on. Thank you very much.